Today on This is Atlanta, we'll build tiny cities and make miniature guitars. We've also got roller derby, only smaller. All this, plus the Thimble Rig Circus, music guests, the Ghost Project, and much more, coming up right now.
Well, I'd always wanted to be like my mom when I was older, because ever since I was 3, I've been watching Derby. It seemed just amazing, and I wanted to do that when I got older.
I see her play at her roller derby games, and she's really good, and I decided I wanted to do it, and she said it would be okay, so I joined the Atlanta Derby Rats.
In 2010, I retired from roller derby, and it seemed like a good fit for my skills as a former skater to start a program for young girls in our area, in the Atlanta area, that could benefit from roller derby just like I had.
Sometimes fans would come and watch the games, and then they'd ask questions about, oh, I have a daughter that really enjoyed watching the game. Is there something she can do to participate? Seeing that need in our community made her feel like she needed to start something for the younger girls to be able to participate in.
My mom came home from a roller derby bout, and she had a flyer, and she said, "What do you think about this?" And I said, "This is really cool," so I joined.
I watched a lot, and I tried to take some of the things that the coaches were trying to tell her and incorporate that on the way home.
So she started telling me all these rules and stuff that I needed to get better with.
She was very polite, and she looked at me and she said,
"You can't tell me what to do because you don't really know how to skate."
So fair enough, I went and bought skates, and we signed up for a speed and endurance class together. That's kind of how things started.
My sister started out doing roller derby, and then my mom followed. So I started in level 1 and moved my way up since then.
And it's a lot of fun to watch them grow and see them achieve all these goals. And as me, as a roller girl, waiting for them to hopefully one day maybe they'll join our league and play with us, and it'll be exciting to see.
I'm used to working with a league of adults, and I can tell you that the Atlanta Roller Girls are the most crazy, competitive women you will ever meet. And that's not how the junior league should be. The junior league is about them learning skills, building their confidence, learning about teamwork. And some of that is as they become more comfortable on their skates, they're more confident in the way that they play.
Well, the basics is there's 5 players from each team on the track.
The blockers are in front of the jammers, and they try to get through the pack as fast as they can. They can push their way through the pack, but you have to go through legally, so that's a challenge.
You have to get through the pack and keep going around and around the track, and the more you go around the track, the more points you gain.
And if one of the jammers from the team gets out of the pack first, they're lead jammers, so anytime she can end the jam whenever she wants.
Call it off.
She can call off the jam by going like this. She can create that point differential. That's a key part of the strategy. What I always say is the most fun thing about roller derby is you get to go really fast and hit people, which is really, really fun.
Yes.
Sometimes it just stings a little bit, and I don't care.
I mean, she's definitely at a point in her derby career where we're trying to differentiate between being hurt or being injured. Your pride is hurt versus does something hurt to the point where it's going to prevent you from skating again.
My name is Molotov. We are from Moldavia, which is a country just south of Albania, slightly to the east of Australia. You know, we have Moldavia. It is a nice country. We would never speak ill of Moldavia. It is a little arid. It is a tornado-ridden place.
Lots of natural disasters. We don't grow much. Mostly yams.
Tragic place to live, really. Despair and yams we export. We were not officially Thimblewig Circus until we came to America, because we were a part of the Great Moldavian Circus for about 17 years. Zoloft, Kiska, and I have been doing Thimblewig Circus here in America for 5 years now.
Every time I see you, you become more beautiful / handsome.
We know how to do the fire eating and the fire breathing and the bed of nails and sword of swallowing and the contortion.
Juggling is the core of our show. It is the thing that everyone can relate to, so we enjoy doing it very much. We juggle anything you can fit in your hands. We have probably attempted to juggle before. Zoloft in particular is very good at different kinds of things. We have knives, and we juggle torches, clubs, of course, and rings, all of the standard tools. Many tricks require more than one juggler.
I don't club juggle, but I do a lot of the tricks that you need a third person for. So grabbing things out of the air and putting them back in and replacing clubs with the knives or fire, whatever we're using that night.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
So soon, we will all three be whirling tornadoes of tossing whatever it is we also want to catch.
Ready? 1, 2, and...
Our favorite place to practice at the night is Eddie's Trick Shop in the Marietta Square.
We have been able to use it after hours as a place to practice, and it is perfect because they have long hallways, the juggling is very easy, high ceilings are very accessible.
It's very magical. It's nice to have a magical place to go and do art.
Sorry. Welcome, everyone! Welcome!
I am the star of the show. It is just the fact that I come to this stage with the largest knowledge of things. I am an excellent juggler, a superior whip cracker. I have been known to do many dangerous feats, such as eat and breathe fire.
And he fancies himself to be very in charge, and we let him think that for the most part.
Kiska has learned several things, very small things, to amuse children and the simple-minded. And so she brings a certain appeal to the stage, because she is like a flower, slightly, just past when it is opened, and it is just beginning to close.
I'm going to take
Kiska's contortion, obviously. She is also a blockhead, which is a remarkable trick, wherein she takes a nail and slowly inserts it all the way inside her nose.
I know, right?
I mean, really attractive.
Your eyes want to well up like you're crying. So much like your gag reflex when you're doing a sword swallowing, you have to do it over and over again until your body stops reacting. It becomes a normal.
When you actually stop and look at the things that you use every day, where they come from and how they're made, it's pretty fascinating. My name is Sarah Green, and I'm the owner and founder of Cord Shoes and Boots. So I make casual boots for men and women. They're sort of in a work boot style. My dad is a fantastic woodworker, and his dad was a woodworker. And I started working in the wood shop with him when I was pretty young, 7 or 8. So I've always sort of had a knack. I really thrive off of a tangible result. I had a desk job for about a year, and I just didn't like it. I just started looking at shoes and started thinking, how did these get here? So it sort of started from just seeing if it could be done. And then I found I really liked it. The first few years were just self-instruction. And then I was lucky enough to get to go up to Pennsylvania I was there for 10 months and got to do a formal apprenticeship. So I really learned everything by hand, the old-fashioned way. I make 2 to 3 pairs a week. First is, traditionally it's called clicking, which is where you actually cut out the leather. And then the next thing is actually constructing the upper, which is where, you know, you sew the upper and the lining and all your reinforcements and things like that. And then the third part would be lasting, which is where you take the constructed upper and you use a special tool called lasting pliers, and you actually pull that onto what's called a last, which is the mold or form. And then bottoming would be the last part, which is where you put on your midsole and your sole and your heel. It takes me about 12 hours to make a pair of boots. There aren't very many people doing it at this scale. I was really lucky to spend some time at a factory up in Pennsylvania, and the shoes that they make, they're made essentially the same way that mine are. But you have one person that might use 2 different machines, and I don't think there are that many people that still can do the A to Z. Why are my boots worth it? Because they're not cheap. And I do say, because people ask me that they are made very well out of very good materials. And the construction methods are very strong and sound. And they're easily repaired. You don't really ever have to throw the shoe away. And also I think that there's something that people respond to about knowing the story of where it came from. A lot of people ask, like, why are you sticking with this? I like always being able to strive to be better at something. And I notice now that I can pick up things with my eyes and my hands and things that I wouldn't have had the eye to see a couple years ago. I find a lot of joy in like seeing that improvement. It's something that I think I could probably do it now for the next 50 years and continue to get better up until the very end. It's hard, but it's really fun.
I mean, when you tell people that you're in a percussion violin duo, they're automatically, what is that? You know, it's that first bit of conversation that always gets them, but I like to have it where I just say, I play rock and roll. Yeah, we have the good fortune of playing with a lot of people that go across the spectrum of jazz, of funk, rock, everything, and they all sort of bring it in and mix with what we do. But I mean, really, it's rock music.
Back in 1997, I started recording an album which would be called Ghosts. And it was called Ghosts because every composition on the album was written on a different instrument that I had access to in the violin business. I bought, sold, and appraised old violins. And so when I met Davis, we started playing in a jazz combo called DP3.
It was jazz very much in the way of sort of 70s miles, kind of funk. And I really wanted to get away from that. It wasn't really where I was at.
We used the Ghosts project to sort of title this duo coming out of that because at the time we felt like it was sort of a branching out of the work that I had done on Ghosts, this idea that you could capture, you know, individual timbres and voices of things.
The original idea was it was very quiet. It was going to be very quiet music. It was going to be music where I played only with mallets and brushes. That was very cool. We had a great time with it, but then we started playing larger stages. The music changed, became more bombastic, louder.
And so we've become known for having these sort of musical collisions on stage. We've had hip-hop MCs, Tuvan throat singers, opera singers, metal guitarists. Basically, if anybody can improvise very, very well and knows the big secret, which is, of course, when not to play, they're welcome to join us on stage.
Well, I mean, we play club shows, we play, you know, the standard rock venue. We play Dragon Con. We do a yearly Oakland Cemetery, the Sunday in the Park, we do that. We do a lot of gigs that are sort of off the beaten path. I mean, we've played a nursing home. But it was a fan of ours' mother. She couldn't make the gig because she was in a nursing home. And we brought the gig to her. And we actually played for their recreational hour. You know, then we played the rock concert later that night, got really incredibly loud and had a great time with that as well. The venue's very much a part of what we're doing, but also it melts away. I tend to play with my eyes closed a lot, and I'll open my eyes and I'll realize, you know, I'm in a club or I'm in a cemetery. It doesn't really, all that sort of washes away at some point, and it just becomes about the sounds that we're producing together. We were in Salt Lake City a few years back, and we were asked to do a morning show, like a sort of the coffee and traffic kind of thing. We show up and we get a small interview, and we'd send music and information.
And then right before we went on, they cut to a commercial break and they said, "And when we come back, a man who talks to dead people."
And that was their way of taking everything we told them and boiling it down to the Ghost Project must be people that talk to dead people.
It's our own fault. We named ourselves the Ghosts Project. When people ask me these days, I tend to say we're strings and big beats. It can be ethereal, it can be scary or very cinematic, but mostly it's rhythm and melody. It's as simple as that.
I guess it's, I was about 9 or 10, I think, when this first happened, and it was, a lot of people find various methods to separate their bricks when they get stuck together. Mine was to bite down on my bricks. So it happened one day that I cracked a tooth, and my mother was very displeased. I had to very quickly learn an alternative for separating my bricks, lest I had my collection thrown out the door. My name is Joshua Bond. I am the Legoland Discovery Center Master Model Builder of Atlanta, and I get paid to make the impossible happen with Lego. The things I build here at the Legoland Discovery Center range in size and shape and color depending on what's necessary, but almost always relate in amazing, big projects by the end. In the case of our current project, the Skydiver, there is a Skydiver figure. We're using his design and his jumpsuit to create the design. He's going to ultimately be suspended by a single cable hanging right above your head. I wanted to create a design that will make the outside world seem like it's coming in to visit us.
We're building concentric circles representing the smaller center point of his stomach that are going to get bigger and bigger as we go until we reach the outside of his body, at which point we'll start rounding out the shapes. Then I take it back apart, I add the adhesive, put it together permanently, because once I do that, in about 5 minutes, it's not coming apart ever again, so I can't make too many mistakes. I have been into Lego since as long as I can remember. The earliest photos my family have of me are playing with Lego. I was started around 9 months of age.
Then I progressed forward into all sorts of really cool projects in middle school and high school, and unlike the typical where we feel that it's uncool to build with Lego, I just kept going and have around 600, 700,000 pieces in my personal collection, so I have quite a bit of Lego.
So what we're looking at the moment is almost the fundamental base for our minifigure. He's a little bit bigger than I anticipated because right here is actually going to be his waistline. So he's actually going to be maybe a full 2.5 feet roughly, but it's all good. Bigger is better in a lot of cases with our models.
One of the biggest important models that we get to do here as master model builders, specifically in Atlanta, is that I'm responsible for the Atlanta design. We have Miniland, which is over 1.1 million Lego pieces. It happens to be a very large 6-week build for myself and 2 electricians from Windsor, England. Nobody really expects to just become a master builder because it sounds like a pretty cool job and it's pretty highly coveted.
I went on to college for everything from culinary school to interior design, but never really found my place. While I was doing so, I worked for a Lego store, and I just got lucky enough that one of these competitions happened because they were opening a center here in Atlanta, and my boss was kind enough to tell me about it.
The Brick Factor is an open audition, or a open competition, I should say. And my boss said, if you don't go, I'm not going to have any respect for you anymore. So I did.
And I won out of 117, and now I'm here, which is pretty awesome in the grand scheme of things, because most people don't get their dream in life so early. But it's pretty cool. It's one of those things I never really saw coming.
One of the good parts about being a master model builder is you get a lot of freedom. I do have a little bit of what we'd consider an unfair advantage, that I can order parts straight from Lego if I need pieces. Now, I do have to pay for them, of course, but when it comes down to the limitations of what I need, there's not really any. The question I get a lot is, do you see in Lego? Do you think in Lego? And I would say yes. I can take a project, when I look at it and I get inspired by it, I can take it apart in my head, spin it around, and start to develop a knowledge of what kind of pieces I'm going to need before I ever get to my desk and start building. It's a pretty cool skill that develops spatial reasoning, and little people pick it up very early on in their Lego career, so it's very important to encourage them to free build and make their own thing so that they can start that skill themselves. So there's going to be a new master model builder to take my place one day. We're just waiting on him to show up.
Instead of being in a society where everything is instant gratification, the person who has learned to be patient, to get the mind attuned to doing something now and expecting results way on down the road. When the results do come, they're kind of there forever. Richard Westbrook. I run ultra marathons, which are races longer than the marathon distance of 26.2 miles. I was in college up in Tennessee, and I was majoring in physical education. My fitness level wasn't very good. I remember my first run was around the campus area, about a half mile around. I thought that was big stuff, but I was about dead when I got through. A few weeks later, it was running 8 miles, 10 miles, 12 miles, and so forth. And it's been going that direction ever since. My first job was in Northwest Florida, in Fort Walton Beach. A friend of mine who was teaching there at a rival high school, and we kind of came up on the idea of could we go for a full year without missing a day of running? And it has to be at least 1 mile per day within a 24-hour period. Injury-wise, during my running, I've been pretty lucky. I've had a couple of stress fractures, and the doctor said, you know, no running for 6 weeks, let it heal up. But I would go out and run at least a mile. My wife, we were talking about the streak, how many days I've run without missing, and she Googled it and found the United States Running Streak Association. Other runners have mentioned that they've been going for a few days or a couple of weeks, or they're going to try to do it for a year, see if they can handle a streak. And I tell them, be careful, because you're going to wake up one morning and figure the streak's controlling you. You're not controlling the streak. The Trans-America race in 1992 was the first one held since 1929. It was 64 consecutive days, no breaks. It was from Huntington Beach, California, Los Angeles, to Central Park in New York City. My only goal was to make it across and enjoy as much as I could. I just wanted to see the country. I didn't care if I won, finished last. And it was a really high point in my running that I was able to start at the Pacific Ocean and on my own propel myself under my own power all the way across the country. I was thinking that nothing else would ever surpass that, and I don't think anything has. Right now, I'm on a level of doing about basically 10 miles a day. I feel like I can, on an endurance level, accomplish just about anything. And it's the rhythm of the run itself. It's almost meditative at times. I think that feeling right there is why I do the runs, because I know how I'm going to feel. It's like a natural drug, more or less. The word is in my family that Dad would just go out and run one day and won't come back. And thinking about it, that's not a bad way. It's a pretty good way to do it. It's like the old cowboy just being on his horse and riding into sunset, I guess.
My name is Mike Snowden, and I've been a musician for a long time, ever since I was 12 or 13. Good sustain on it. Small town Louisiana, there wasn't much else to do, so I started playing music. The last band I was in, we were on the road just forever, so I took some time off. Yeah, that's cool. And I came upon a guy playing a cigar box guitar on the internet, and I was like, oh man, that's cool. I've never seen that before, you know? So I made one and showed a buddy. He was like, oh man, that's cool, make me one. So I made another one. I'm right over at 900 now, so I'm getting close to 1,000. And it's a fun way to do music without having to kill yourself on the road, you know? Basically, I start with the neck. I like to pick up, you know, a nice fretboard, like this is a walnut. I cut that out to fit on top, and then I do the inlays on the fretboard. This is a scrap piece of wood, so I try not to throw any of my wood away. I try and keep everything. So you just pull that out, and that's a little plug that we're gonna fill these little holes with. Let those dry, then I sand that down. And then I'll do the fret markers on my table saw. I have a little jig I kind of made up with another template. And then you gotta sit and hammer frets. So that's the next thing, is the frets come in long sticks. You get on a roll though, man, you get going, it's like you knock out a whole neck before you know it. Next step would be to finish off your frets, sand them all down, file them off. Everything gets glued up and then finished off. Then the fun parts get to string it up and plug it in and play it, and hopefully it works and it makes a guitar. So we got our 3-string guitar. We're gonna string it up. I think my dog just found a squirrel in the yard. He's trying to steal the show, I think. That goes right there. Now we're gonna tune this sucker up. So you want this to be in G, open, and then when you play the 12th fret, oh, it was perfect on that one. that was perfect. So the intonation's good on that, it sounds good. It's a good little sound cigar box guitar. They all sound different. That's the cool thing about cigar box guitar, you know. You find a box, if it has a good, you can tell it'll have a good tone to it, you know, just by knocking on it. A big box is gonna be a little bassier, a smaller box, more treble, you know, but they all have a tone that's kind of hard to describe. It's like magic, you know. All right, that's a good one. Jeff Daniels, when they were shooting Dumb and Dumber 2 in Atlanta, he actually bought 4 from me. Christian Bush has bought a bunch from me. Joe Perry from Aerosmith and Tom Morello. So yeah, it's fun. Something about going down to the shop and just making guitars, you know. Sometimes you think it's kind of silly, you know. It's like I'm making a cigar box guitar, like what, you know. But then people see it, they're like, man, that's so cool, you know. So it's a very emotional thing, you know. Music is, and I guess making things can be. And then at the end, you end up with a guitar that you can play. So that's kind of cool too.